Chiefs take care of business against the Las Vegas Raiders, a road win. It'll get handled when it gets handled. It got handled today as the Chiefs get another victory under their belts. They are still undefeated, the only undefeated team in the National Football League. Winning 27-20 over the Las Vegas Raiders. Yes, it is quite good. Matthew, what's up, everybody? Kent Swanson here and Matthew Lane here on the KCSN Postgame Show. Here to celebrate yet another Chiefs victory, and of course, it was a very Chiefs Raiders game, if you ask me, Matthew.
Yeah. I had to spend like the first half of this game kind of watching on my phone at a kid's birthday party. And so I missed some of the fun stuff that started. And then I kind of started to tune in right when things got a little dicey before the Chiefs come back and, ended up saying like, hey, we're the better team, guys. Like we always got to remember that and put the stamp on it. So yeah, you got a full, I think, Chiefs Raiders experience in this one from what you would expect from these two teams in the year 2024.
Yeah. And like, it wasn't a game that was, ever really in question, I don't think, even when it got a little kind of gross at one point with the interception deep in the red and the Chiefs, potentially going down and trailing early in that game. But, the defense steps up, takes care of business. And like, that was really the only moment that was really sweating it out. But you saw some ugly moments. You saw a little chippiness during this game between these two teams. But hey, look, the Chiefs come out victorious yet again. Look, hey, by the way, that Baltimore Ravens team that everybody claims is the best team in the National Football League. I'm sorry, not everybody, just some that severely lack knowing ball decided to say that the Ravens were a better football team. That they didn't take care of business against the Las Vegas Raiders. The Kansas City Chiefs did, in fact, do that. They are continuing to be undefeated, and they are the best team in the National Football League. I'm sure the Bills will get a lot of love this week because the Ravens lost, but it's still the Chiefs. But they take care of business. Maddie, let's talk about the defense. Honestly, some early game scripting from the Las Vegas Raiders, good by them. Moved the chains, some key third downs, some key executions there. But honestly, by the end of that thing, it kind of felt like the Chiefs kind of had the Raiders number. Pretty typical to what we see from this Raiders offense. They kind of fizzle out as the game goes on, and they really didn't get all that much going. I know they put 20 points on the board, but the Chiefs were kind of just managing the end of that game with a 14-point lead.
Yeah, it felt like the Raiders came out with a pretty good game plan on how they wanted to attack the Chiefs. And this is something that Steve Spagnuolo kind of generally has done too. Like they start the game out that first drive and it's kind of like a feeling out period before he puts the clamps on. And the Raiders did have a really good plan of attack on that first drive to get some matchups they liked. They were getting a lot of the looks that they wanted all the way up and down the field. And then those kind of seemed to go away throughout the game. Things got a lot tighter. The Raiders had absolutely no ability to run the ball. The protection for Gardner Minshew there in the backfield was not being able to hold up whatsoever to the pressures and stuff like that. So yeah, it felt like another version of this Chiefs defense where as the game goes on, it's just like it's like a snake that just keeps constricting, just getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And you just kind of eventually just like run out of things to do. You just can no longer move anymore. And that kind of felt like what the Raiders offense got to before the final drive, like right before the 2-minute warning where the Chiefs were kind of playing prevent a little bit, but it just felt like got to the point where there was nothing left for them. And that's what the Chiefs defense have done to just about every team they've played this year. And it only seems to be getting better and better at it, even though they got some injuries starting to mount up on the back end.
Yeah, things are definitely starting to pile up there, and we will, I'm sure, get to that. We'll see what Andy Reid has to say about some of those injuries coming up here shortly. But look, the Las Vegas Raiders had 21 carries for 33 yards on the day. They could not run the football to save their life. The Chiefs continue to make teams one-dimensional. The longest run was 7 yards, and it was Gardner Minshew. The longest carry for any running back was 5. And they did a great job. I think, stopping the run and making the Raiders one-dimensional. And even in that last possession, the majority of the yards gained in that possession where they're driving down, it was just thrown to the flat. The Chiefs were playing with great depth and thrown to the flat, and they were moving the ball. They got down to the 20 and made some things interesting down there. But the Chiefs really did a great job taking care of business on the defensive side of the ball. George Karlaftis had a really strong game today. I thought he had a really strong performance, getting some pressures, getting a sack on the board. That pass deflection on the screen attempt, that was kind of one of a key point early in the game. I thought he had a really good performance.
Yeah, I mean, he's stacked up 2 games now back to back where I think you finally start to see a little bit of the jump that I think we were all hoping from George Karlaftis, right? You were coming into this year, you saw some flashes, especially in the playoffs last year, of Karlaftis really kind of taking that step. And then I'd say through the first 5 weeks, it didn't come away thinking like, oh, he's there. Like he's already on his way to doing so. But I think these last 2 weeks in particular have been really good for Karlaftis. I think he continues to play really well versus the run. He's starting to mix in some flashes as a pass rusher to where he's winning a little bit quicker rather than late in the downs. You always know he's a threat to knock the ball down. So he's starting to prove to be this kind of reliable, consistent player to go along with Chris Jones, who's still playing great. But unlike early in the year where it seemed like the stats, like the counting stats were starting to also fall into place, those counting stats aren't falling in quite as nicely now as he's getting even more attention and teams are paying even more attention to him. But Karlaftis is stepping up. Tershawn Wharton stepped up. I thought Felix Anudike-Uzomah played another good game. Like he put together another solid performance after last week's too. So entire defensive line kind of coming together all at the right time.
Yeah, and hey, look, Charles Omenihu's supposedly coming back at some point too, so you're adding that into the mix as well. Like I think that's a good sign, that everything else is kind of starting to come together. I think Felix Anudike-Uzomah's, shown to be a capable player against the run. He's done some good stuff there. I think you're still waiting on a little bit more from him from a pass rush perspective. They didn't really line him up along the interior, I don't think, this week as much as they have recently, but or as they did last week. But like I think, hey, like he's coming along strong too. Like there's some positive things to take away from from what you're seeing on the defensive line. I'm looking forward to it. You get your first look without Jalen Watson. And early returns for Nazeeh Johnson were a little bit rough too. He kind of struggled there a little bit, even when he was in. And then, he gets hurt, unfortunately, and now you're down to Joshua Williams having to play, which I think Joshua Williams started playing a little bit better as the game went on. But yeah, still that depth is absolutely getting tested at the cornerback position right now.
For sure. And I mean, like you look at it from Joshua Williams' perspective, right? He had gotten to the point where he kind of got completely worked out of the rotation altogether just a couple weeks ago. And then now you have an injury to Watson, which puts him back in the rotation, but not even the starter because that's Nazeeh Johnson. Williams also isn't going to come in for any slot reps. That seems to have gone to Christian Roland Walls at this point. So like, his role is still a little ambiguous. He doesn't know when he's going out there. Oh, wait, now Nazeeh Johnson gets hurt. Josh Williams has to step in now, and he is now your starting corner. He goes from 2 weeks ago not being in the rotation at all to now he's playing every single snap across from Trent McDuffie because they need another boundary corner. So I think it would make sense to have to shake off some, I don't even call it rust necessarily, just getting back into the flow of things, getting used to being back in that spot in which he has been in multiple times over the previous 2 seasons. So it would make sense that he played better as time went on. I do think the Chiefs got to keep an eye on that. We're not here to talk about moves to make, but like if Nazeeh Johnson, I think it's just a concussion protocol, but depending on how sold they were on how he had started the game from here, you really might have to keep an eye on that cornerback position because Watson was playing so great. I don't know if you can expect Johnson or Williams or anybody to step in and play close to that level. You're getting pretty far down into that depth at that point in time to expect such good play from him.
And I do think, to one thing though, the good thing for the Chiefs right now is Joshua Williams has played a ton of meaningful snaps for this team over the last few years. Like that's at least comforting to know that this is a guy that has played well and has played at a capable level for this team over the course of his time in the National Football League. Now, understanding that, like, okay, there's a reason that he's been pushed so far down the depth chart, right? And there were some concerns that, it seems that the Chiefs have with him and maybe, a lack of consistency to his game. I think that's even been mentioned in some of the press conferences during during training camp and whatnot. But here we are. He's going to be put in a position to have to play a lot more. I would imagine, maybe at least this week, and we'll see kind of what goes from there. So that's I don't know. That's something to something to watch. But I do have some. I take some comfort, I guess, a little bit in the fact that Joshua Williams has played a lot of football, and I think he did fine. I think he had a fine performance in this game as it went on. It was a little rough early, but that was the case for Najee Johnson too. So there's definitely some feeling out. There's really not a ton of time left for them to make a decision on if they want to make a move at corner, where they want to make a move. Some early thoughts on the offensive side of the football, though, Maddie.
Okay. Patrick Mahomes played, I mean, maybe his best game of the year, if not, right up there with week 1 against the Ravens. I thought, especially in that first half of the Ravens game, he was great. I thought Mahomes was really good in this game. Like I said, I kind of was watching on a phone for the first half, but everything I saw looked really good. And then watching down the stretch, kind of coming back in after the tipped interception, he was kind of on point. He didn't get a ton of help from all of his wide receivers. There were some plays that I thought they could have made where he put the ball up there where they could have made the plays. But he looked good. He was navigating the pocket well when he was not under direct pressure that was coming very quickly from a left tackle that I'm sure we need to talk about here in a minute. Mm-hmm. And it was just nice. It was nice to see Mahomes come out. I thought he played better last week against the 49ers as well. It was nice to see him build on that and really come out throwing with his chest kind of from the get-go and making all of the Mahomes plays as we needed him.
Oh, he was locked in. He was dialed in. I don't know if it's taken things personally because of what happened last week or last year again in this game on Christmas Day. I don't know if it was the hand puppet that Trey Taylor decided to put on him. I'm not entirely sure, but I thought he played the most complete game that he's played all season. And when you look at, the passing consistency, he was on target for the vast majority of the game, really didn't miss a ton of throws in this game. When you see the creativity that he had, trying to just make plays happen when his team needed it. He was a huge factor in that. Like he was kind of getting into the bag a little bit more today than he has all season. Honestly, I think this was the most in the bag we've seen him in any game this year to this point too. So like I think and the run game wasn't as consistent today. So you saw Mahomes kind of carrying the load a little bit more, both with, just kind of with his legs and extending plays and moving the chains. They weren't in those advantageous third downs as they have been previously. The Raiders did a really good job stopping the run. I thought, compared to what we've seen from teams in recent memory. So that was really good on him. Mahomes just kind of just consistently doing what he's been doing, the majority of his NFL career and making some of those spectacular plays and figuring things out and solving problems against some really, some messy pockets, man. There was that play where he wound up rolling to his left and watched him bob and weave and navigate and get out to his left. Was like that was one of the best. That was just one of the most like instinctual plays that we've seen him make in a long time. Not that he doesn't make these, but like that one in particular, I just thought it was really impressive. So like I thought he did a really good job across the board. I know that there was another interception, and I'm gonna roll my eyes at it again because that's 3 straight interceptions that he's had that weren't on him, and that kind of tarnishes this just a tad, but. I'm curious where that ball goes and what that throw looks like. Cause it was on the deeper side too. Like I think it was probably a middle throw to Kelsey. It looked like it might've been. So I don't know. We'll see, but we'll see on the all 22, but yeah, I thought he had a good performance.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he didn't look like a guy that was overthinking stuff. I think sometimes earlier in the year, once the pass rush started getting to him a little bit, and it seemed like he was questioning what was going on at the left tackle spot. He didn't trust his protection. It felt like a guy that was kind of second guessing. He was overthinking some of the stuff. It felt like he was trying to place every football that he threw rather than just throw it. That's not the case anymore. It does look like he's playing with confidence. He's playing more on the instincts. And we saw that. I mean, he took a couple big hits, especially coming off some pressure because he was probably standing in a little longer because he was sliding around in the pocket rather than immediately looking to bail out of it. So I do think everything's trending the right way for him. It was nice to see some of that lead to like production on the field, getting good play out of some different receivers. Travis Kelce showing up, finding soft spots and zones. DeAndre Hopkins getting a couple targets and making the most of them, eventually getting Worthy in for the touchdown. Like it was nice to see a lot of this stuff rewarded because I do think he's playing better. I do think you're getting flashes of decent offensive line play, but it's just the inconsistency right now is still putting a lot of Mahomes up plate. So like my biggest takeaway from this was I'm sure glad that Chiefs traded for DeAndre Hopkins. And I understand he only got 2 catches and like they were fun 2 catches, but like I was really glad they made that move. And I think you can see the direction they are going there and they are going to need somebody to take those targets because nobody else is really earning them, right? Nobody else is earning them.
Yeah. And I want to talk a lot about DeAndre Hopkins and these pass catchers first, but I wanted to give a chance to call all Chiefs fans out there. Some of y'all were out at Allegiant Stadium treating it like it was GAH Field at Arrowhead Stadium. It felt like it at times. Well, for all Chiefs fans, you could be on the 50 inside GEHA Field for the official coin toss at a Chiefs home game this season, not just one that felt like a home game this week. Visit Chiefs.com/GEHA now. You can enter to win a chance to be on the field for the March to the three-peat. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at Chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is the proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSNpost. That's mintmobile.com/KCSNPOST. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/KCSNpost. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Chiefs win 27-20 against the Las Vegas Raiders. Thanks, everybody, hanging out with us tonight. Big win for the Kansas City Chiefs. Remain undefeated. Feels good. We were talking about the offense before the break, just continuing that thought. Hey, look, yeah, I thought DeAndre Hopkins looked great in the limited opportunities that we saw him. It kind of felt like they had more of a plan and got him involved a little bit earlier in the game script, which makes some sense. They kind of can get him involved a little bit there, put him in the red zone, a little bit of third down, had a little plan for him early, got him the ball early, which was great. And he looked great. And even in some of the targets that he didn't get and some of the options that, opportunities that he didn't get, were just as interesting. And in an area of the field where the Chiefs really do need someone to have some success there, Matty.
Yeah, sorry, you gotta excuse me. I'm a little flabbergasted. I just saw Jaden Daniels game-winning Hail Mary, which is one of the worst Hail Marys of all time. Run left, run right, run left, launch it up, tipped, caught. I mean, just crazy play. I'm distracted by a walk-off Hail Mary that was not like appealing or like aesthetic to watch. Anyway,
it was insane.
It's a crazy play. Okay, so yeah, yes, everything you said about Hopkins on the field, I think rings true, right? Like he's clearly going to help them in an area of the field that they're struggling with. He's clearly going to give them somebody that can beat man coverage. It gives them a second zone beater for when Juju comes back. Then that makes them have 3. Like he does fill a lot of needs. And so like, I don't know if I'm wanting to focus on that. My thing was more of, I watched this team now for back-to-back weeks kind of have to funnel a fair amount of targets to Xavier Worthy. And I don't mean like long-term that's a worry, but this year it does not look like Xavier Worthy is ready to be a high target, like a high volume receiver. He's a guy that's going to be winning short. He's going to be winning long, not a lot in between. You don't want to have to run so much of your offense through him. You don't want to have to run it through Justin Watson. You don't necessarily want to rely on the health of Juju Smith-Schuster. So I think getting DeAndre Hopkins is going to take a lot off of all of those guys' plate, number one. But number two, he really looks like he can do it. Like we've seen the catch radius already. There was a play later in the game, and I think it was a third down that was like a deep out route to Worthy to the field side. Hopkins absolutely obliterates his corner on the opposite side of the field, and he runs on an in-breaker and is wide open. And Mahomes doesn't work that side of the field. That's fine. That happens. But just seeing that's still in the tank for Hopkins. So I think as the weeks go, we'll see his usage ramp up. It won't always just be at the beginning of the game and then he kind of fades as it goes. I think when a lot of people go back and watch more of this game or watch it again, you're going to see number 8 open frequently, a lot more frequently than you're going to think. And so like, I'm just very glad the Chiefs made the move because I think you can see going forward how that's really going to stack up and build on this offense. And even looking at Mahomes' passing chart, there's a lot more stuff into the intermediate areas of the field. All of a sudden, this is open without necessarily pushing the ball deep down the field to Worthy either. So like a lot of things are opening up, I think, with this addition. I think you're going to see the Chiefs receiving core kind of round into form here in the next about the next month.
Don't think it's an accident that Travis Kelce gets 10 catches today either. DeAndre Hopkins, 2 catches, 29 yards. One, I believe, was a key third down, if I remember correctly. Just making, looked great. Like that's something you got to be excited about. if you're the Chiefs. And like, I do think things will start rounding into shape a little bit more with this receiver core now that he's part of it. There's a little bit more stability to this, and that's a good thing. Xavier Worthy does get 8 targets, 4 catches, 37 yards, and a touchdown. A little bit up and down for him. Obviously, hey, look, he catches that ball at the 1 yard line, gets down to the 1 yard line. Actually looks like a drop. They call it a drop. Actually, it was a catch and fumble. And that ball fumbles out of the 1 yard line, which is still, not what you want to see. But yeah, I think just seeing that DeAndre Hopkins is in the mix here, I think is really good for Xavier Worthy. Yes, you can still use him. And yes, he's still got function on this offense. He's still going to be a quality contributor. And you heard, Trent Green talking about how excited Patrick Mahomes is about the prospects of Xavier Worthy as a player. I think they all believe in him there. There's definitely some inconsistencies he's got to keep working through as he acclimates to the National Football League. But I do think that, hey, look, seeing some of those inconsistencies today from Worthy, I think it's going to be good for him to have DeAndre Hopkins in the mix here.
Oh, absolutely. And again, moving forward, I think it's going to give them that safety blanket versus all coverage, right? Like, it can't always be Travis Kelce at this point of his career. Now you have a guy versus man that I think is going to fall to that. And the reason that's important is because, well, the offensive line still does have some flaws over there. I think Jawan Taylor's been playing a lot better football lately, but it does seem like the more tape getting available on Wanya Morris, the more success opposing pass rushers are starting to have. And this is kind of what happened last year. We remember he stepped in for Donovan Smith and played well in his first, half a game and then full game after that. And then it was a Raiders game then, conveniently enough, that it really fell apart for him. And it just felt like as teams got a little bit more tape on him, pass rushers started to figure out either tells that he has in his set, something he likes to do with his hands, where they're just starting to kind of take advantage of, I don't want to say lack of athleticism because he's very athletic, but sometimes that athleticism doesn't play out in the way his footwork moves up the arc. And I think you see his feet can be a little slow sometimes and he can rely on reaching. And this isn't an offense with Patrick Mahomes, who does like to drop a little deep, who's willing to hang out deeper in the pocket, that you want to be overreaching, give up a very quick outside speed rush. And so I just think we're starting to see Wanya Morris become a little bit more of a liability to where now you might have a left tackle question on your hands again on who should play, because it's not like either one of them, the last time we have seen them now, have been particularly good.
No, this was a rough one against one of the better, one of the better pass rushers in the National Football League. And I don't feel like they really lined him up too much early in the first half. It didn't seem like Max Crosby was hanging out too much over Wanya in the first half. And then they decided to kind of save that and then utilize that in the second half a little bit more. And it was not pretty. It was not pretty. And like the start of that second half, Max Crosby kind of wrecked it. And Wanya Morris kind of wrecked it. 3 holding calls in like the first half of the third quarter from Wanya Morris, which is a little bit, difficult, and got beat outside, got beat inside, got beat in a run play, like a lot of the things that that caused Kingsley Suamataia to lose his job. I don't think that's going to be the same situation here with Wanya Morris. I think he's going to have a longer leash. I think there's been more of a sample size of Wanya Morris in the National Football League that they're going to keep him here. But it was definitely a rough stretch. And that was where the game got a little bit interesting, honestly. It's, hey, look, the Chiefs punt. The Raiders get the ball deep in their own territory. The defense steps up, forces a field goal. Patrick Mahomes throws an interception, on the tip pass. And that was after, 2 holding calls there from Wanya Morris that put them all the way into the end zone. And then, Chiefs defense steps up and kind of, balances some things out. But like that left tackle situation did kind of help things teeter a little bit there at one point. So I expect them to keep that leash. I mean, they didn't jump to Kingsley, and I don't anticipate them jumping to Kingsley for a while, especially since Patrick Mahomes he feels more confident. He feels more comfortable the last couple of weeks in that pocket, even though it hasn't always been good over there on the left side. He feels confident, and he was confident enough to do what he did this week in this game. I think you got to continue to ride with this group because, I think the leash is pretty long for Wanya at this point.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think this is like they're about to pull him and like go back and forth between these two guys. You're getting to the point now to where at least it has to start being on your mind if practice looks differently than what we're seeing, right? If somebody's looking a little different in practice or whatever, just because this was a game that was close. It still wasn't quite as bad as the Cincinnati Bengals game earlier this year, but it was close to where it was impacting what the Chiefs could do enough that you have to start looking long into it. And now I think as the game went on, like especially there on that final drive to ice it, like that final scoring drive where the Chiefs were running, they mixing some passes in. It looked like they were kind of figuring it out a little bit on how he needed some help, how to navigate it. It's just there have been stretches the past couple of weeks where it's looked like Wanya Morris is starting to trend back into that territory where you are going to have to work around him a little bit more frequently than you would like. And I think we mentioned it, or Geoff had mentioned it last week, that they started to have to leave guys in extra to chip and block. And Andy Reid does not like to do that because of he wants the 5 guys out in a pass route and stuff. And this, if you have to do that game after game, Andy's going to really want to figure it out. It was nice that, and speaking of the offensive line, it was nice that the Chiefs in that final drive were able to get the yards that they needed when they needed to, because they only averaged 2.8 yards per carry. It wasn't a dominant rushing performance from the Chiefs. I think we all kind of thought they'd come in and maybe push the Raiders around a little bit because they were a little weaker up front through some injuries in the second level. Raiders' run defense was game. Like the Chiefs had to earn every single yard they got. Kareem Hunt had to earn every single yard he got, and he continues to run really hard. He continues to be put through the ringer and be the workhorse for this team. It's just, I was a little surprised they couldn't find as much traction on the ground as they did until late in the game when they were getting everything they needed out of it.
Yeah, it was tricky for this team on the ground today. And like that was part of the success, I think, of the Raiders here is, like a relative success. Chiefs still put 27 points on the board and they looked good for the majority of it, but they had to do it a little bit differently than they have over the last few weeks. And I think that's really the point is 29 carries for 82 yards. But I mean, boy, they had to fight for every yard they got. Still, from their running backs, the longest rush was 7 yards for this team. Kareem was very bottled up at the line of scrimmage and really had to fall forward and fight for the 2 yards that they would get to put themselves in a 2nd and 8. So they weren't as advantageous positions running the football this week as they had been in weeks prior. And I think that tipped the hand for the Chiefs, and that makes that can sometimes make a Wanya Morris, a little bit more of a liability if you're having to get more into your true drop back game. So like I think that's where I think that's where things got a little tricky for this team and a stylistic change. Hey, but look, again, this is like the thing I keep talking about. Like this team is just, they're going to go out there. They're going to go win football games. They're going to win. They're a winning machine. They're winning them how they need to win them. And today they had to throw the ball a little bit better today. They had to throw the ball a little bit better today if they were going to win this football game. And they were quite good in the air. They were doing some good things on 3rd downs. I don't think the Chiefs punted today. Did they punt? Yeah, they did. I think they did. They did punt. Yeah, but I think it was. I'm looking real quick. I'm not sure how.
They had 2 punts.
2 punts. Okay, it didn't feel like they punted very much. They took care of business. That's right. They did the long punt return, and then they had one in the first half. But I think they're pretty efficient, and they took care of business. The offense looked pretty good for the most part, but they won it a little bit differently than they have over the last couple of weeks. I wanted to do something really quick and kind of make a fun announcement here about something that's going on at KC Sports Network that we're pretty excited about. We have a new merch store, and we've got some really cool shirts that are out there and available now. I went and looked at the Shop KCSN site, which is shopkcsn.com. Found some really cool shirts that we now have available. These are the good old days shirts. And also we got some participation from some of the subscribers here at KC Sports Network as part of this to help us, kind of come up with some phrases and stuff that wound up on the shirt. And a really cool design, some great work done there, some really cool shirts for you guys to check out. Also, just happened to find out that somebody put the Hollywood Swanson poster on there that Tucker made a while back, BJ. We might need to get that off. Just saying. But again, shopkcsn.com, really cool shirt designs that got made by Tucker and Joe Moore, I believe. We're going to take – I was going to say we can take a break real quick and get Geoff on, but Jeff's here.
I'm here. Sorry, I'm here.
Yes. You're good, buddy.
Perfect. I just put my daughter to bed. She's not feeling well. Then I saw the end of the Washington game, so I was like –
crazy.
I was like, wow, yeah. Washington +3, never a doubt.
Yeah, you had to recover from that one for a minute. I almost tailed your Oregon under 24.5 line yesterday. I don't think I did though.
I'm fairly certain that they've gone under the second half of every game this season.
Oh wow, noted.
They don't score a lot of points second half
because they're up by a billion.
Maybe Boise State they went over the second half, but the other ones they've pretty much been under 20 points.
I'm gonna monitor that one. Geoff, what were your thoughts on this game?
The same as usual with the Chiefs. Like to me, it's a matter of like motivation factor. And I thought early on, once they scored early and sort of the offense was rolling, I think just knew they were going to win the game. And we just saw a kind of a typical Chiefs game when they're a 10-point favorite. Some good, some bad. Mahomes looked really good at some points, and then the interception. The concern to me is like is Morris at left tackle seems to be deteriorating a little bit. I wonder if they go back to Kingsley anytime soon, because you just with at least 3 holdings, a sack. Wasn't a great day for him. One of the holdings is a little BS, but still, I mean, it wasn't the best day for him. And I would wonder if they go back to Kingsley soon.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit before. This kind of happened last year with Wanya Morris. It was a smaller sample size, but it seemed like the more snaps he played, the more games he played, it seemed like there was starting to be a little bit of regression in his use, like how good he was, how efficient he was. Maybe defenses, pass rushers were starting to get a little bit more film, just starting to get a feel on how to attack him. Because it does seem like the longer he played, both last year as a rookie and then now, it seems like things are getting a little bit more difficult for him. But then the trade-off is it almost feels like Mahomes is starting to get a little bit more comfortable behind this offensive line. He's still getting hit a lot, don't get me wrong, but it almost feels like he's starting to get a little bit more comfortable back there and starting to play a little bit more like himself than he was early in the year. So yeah, it's an interesting situation to monitor because I don't know how you go about handling that as the coaching staff.
Mahomes looked he looked good in the pocket tonight, but I think you don't want that much skittishness in the pocket. Like he navigated it well, but I think you'd rather him just be more comfortable in the pocket, right? But yeah, he seemed comfortable. I mean, the Chiefs were 12 of 15 on third down tonight. He was able to just make a lot of plays where it looked like there weren't plays to be made. I thought, the passing game, the interception was bad, but again, I mean, that was probably one of his more efficient nights. The running game was okay. It wasn't great. Travis Kelce came alive. I thought that they got exactly what they needed from Hopkins in a short effort there. Not only two catches, couple more targets than that. So it was a pretty efficient night on offense. 27 points is 27 points. That's the second time this year they've scored that many points, or third, right? They scored 27 week 1, 20. So yeah, that's the third time. So I like what I saw. I think again, you just have to give credit to the defense. Like that to me is what this team is becoming now. That goal line stand was incredible after that bad interception. Yeah, they allowed the late touchdown. Is that because of garbage time? Maybe, but I thought the defense today again showed why they're an elite unit. They've held everyone starting running back under their average. The Raiders rushed for 33 yards today. You take that any day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think about not only did they stop the run and hey, look, they gave up that garbage time touchdown late. 3 of those points come on a short field. The Chiefs give up 2 short fields, one via punt return, and then immediately after that with the turnover, and the Raiders get 3 points out of it. They get the early touchdown with the early game script, do some good things there, execute on third down as, the Chiefs are kind of maybe a little bit of feel out phase for Spags. And then from there on out, it really, I mean, outside of the garbage time touchdown, they kind of controlled that thing. I was telling, the Raiders were living in the flats in that last possession too.
Yeah.
The playing with great depth and then dumping the ball out in the flat. So I thought they did a fantastic job today. And things seem to be shaping up for them on the front on the defensive line and all that stuff too.
It feels just very workmanlike. And I've told you guys before, I've never been on a team like the Chiefs. I can imagine what it feels like to just always sort of know you're going to win, but also your purpose is getting the postseason in the best shape possible, right? Mm-hmm. And that's their goal each week. Schwartz got hurt today, didn't look good. I think they came out of it otherwise okay. Bolton got hurt at the end there, but I think walked off right with Trainer. So it's just how do we integrate Hopkins into this offense? How do we get a little more rhythm in the pass game? I mean, there's certainly things that can be worked on each week, but the goal is to get to the postseason as healthy as possible because they know they can do it, right? They've done it now many years, especially last season, and getting maybe Brown back at the end of the season. So there's things to look forward to, but this is just sort of like what you do if you're a good team. You don't have to cover the spread. Just go on the road, win a game by 7, win comfortably, right? They're up 14 points. Like at the end of that game, it's a comfortable win for the Chiefs.
Yeah, no, I mean, like this game was one of the ones they felt like they were kind of the most controlling throughout the whole game. And like that's been the thing with the Chiefs. It's been a lot of close games. They've been a lot of ugly games, but it kind of felt like they were on the edge the entire time. This one, you could even, I think, throw in the 49ers game into it last week. It just kind of felt like a game they were mostly in control of for the whole time. And I think maybe that's what this version of the Chiefs is when they are not necessarily rolling on all cylinders, but when they're playing well, this is what it feels like. It's not going to be 40 points. It's not going to be lighting the scoreboard up or anything like that, but it's just going to be, they are going to be comfortably rolling around, super highly efficient offense. The third down offense is getting better. Red zone offense seems to be getting a little bit better. And it's just, this is what the good version of the Chiefs looks like until you get to the playoffs. And then everything kind of changes again for them because that's what Andy Reid does.
Yeah. I think that's fair. But also, I think it's just, again, you just have to sort of understand sort of what the goals are of each week. For like the Chiefs are gonna have different goals than other teams, right? And so, I think that obviously today Travis Kelce was a big part of the game plan, right? I'll tell you what, one play that I think was gonna be overlooked, but I think is important in the grand scheme of things, that Hopkins catch in the end of the first half on that deep out. That's a game plan thing where you sort of have to be part of the offense, understand what they're trying to do. And he did it. He did a great job on that one. So integrating Hopkins into it and the defense just being healthy, right, and making plays. So I thought it was just a good quality win for. Like, I wish I'd come in here and tell you like some great insights, but it just feels like a good quality win for the Chiefs. It got out of there mostly unscathed. Mahomes looked more comfortable. The defense continues to play really well. Chris Jones rushed the passer really well. So I thought that it was a good win. This is what you do. You're a division opponent, and you had a 14-point lead there with 2 minutes left.
There's definitely things that this team has to work on. There's things that they have to figure out, and some of it could come internally. Some of it could come with development. Some could come with acquisition before the trade deadline. I just want to ask you one question real quick, Geoff. Just pointing back to the offensive line. Because, hey, look, there's this team 7-0. There's a lot. They're the best team in the National Football League. They're not without their warts, and there's definitely things that you can see as being things that could keep them from achieving their goals. One of them, obviously, we talked about the left tackle position. And my question more for you is, what could Kingsley Suamataia have done over the last, month with limited reps, with limited live reps that could really, help you or help a coaching staff gain confidence in his ability to take over the left tackle spot? Like, what could he be doing?
It's certainly a fair question. So one thing is just drill work with Andy Heck, offensive line coach, right? Just like continued drill work. And look, at your coach, you see a player improve in the drill work, right? You see a player more confident in the techniques you're trying to teach. And look, he's doing the scout team, so he is playing against the one defense.
Yeah.
Now, to your point, I don't know if the Chiefs even hit this time of year. I don't think they do. I don't know. Like, there's a certain time of the year when they just like stop doing it. But you just can see, I think, a confidence building. But you get to the point too where, what's the end game with Morris? Like, what's the end game? Because you want Kingsley's your left tackle of the future, I think. And you got to get him back in there to get his confidence going at some point. Because your point is right. Morris got worse last season. He's gotten worse this year. The more reps, he has not been able to adjust and make a lot of. So I think that's what you see in practice, right? Just a continued improvement of his confidence and overall knowledge of what Andy Heck's trying to teach him.
No, that's a good thought, and that's a good point. I just was kind of curious. It'd be fascinating to see what the Chiefs do there. And I think the one thing it's going to be fascinating is like Mahomes feels more comfortable back there. So does he feel less comfortable if they throw the rookie back out there? That's something you got to think and take into consideration too. Yeah. Geoff, final thoughts before we get you out of here, my friend.
7-0, baby. Another win. God, how about that Hail Mary at the end of that Washington game? You guys see that?
Crazy play. Absolutely crazy play.
So they that's actually like, I know people think that it's kind of like those plays are not schemed up. But that's exactly how it's drawn up. You have one guy in the middle, and then one guy in the back and one guy in the front. And the middle is where you aim to throw the ball. That guy jumps up in the air, tries to catch the ball, and then both guys are there to catch tips. And the defender's supposed to be there too, and he wasn't. So it's exactly how it's drawn up. I mean, it was a great throw. It was obviously you want the ball probably in the end zone, but it was 2 or 3 yards short. But he threw the ball from like the 70. I mean, from the 30. It was a long throw. This is the thing also too, guys. You have to pressure on a Hail Mary. You cannot rush 3. That's the lesson here. Bring pressure. Because by the time that it takes to run down there, you will sack the quarterback. So bring pressure on a Hail Mary.
Well, the Chiefs didn't need a Hail Mary, and Geoff, we don't need you anymore. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you
time.
guys. Have a good night.
Appreciate it.
Talk to you next week. Bye, guys.
Yes, sir. All right, we're going to take... Celebrating a 27-20 Chiefs victory and BJ Kissel cutting me off while I'm trying to throw to break. What's up, Beach?
I've waited 3.5 years to do that.
He's just been waiting.
I think it's the first time I've done a show with BJ in I don't know, since Breaking News Team this offseason.
Boy,
So
yeah.
I'm a little excited about that. Brandon Bowen saying Kent just got smoked.
I did. I'm playing Tucker's role tonight, so I'm seeing how many things he's got moving around. So I'm gonna be a little nicer to him. There's a lot going on, but
there is a lot going on.
Yeah, quick things that I don't know if you guys have mentioned yet, but Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes become 3rd all time in tandem in throwing touchdowns between a pass catcher and receiver, and then Patrick Mahomes becoming the fastest quarterback to hit 30,000 passing yards in just 103 career games. I mentioned a lot of those things in my 10 things show just because I love those stats that contextualize what we're seeing and how special it is as we all get caught up in the day-to-day and the moment-to-moment and all those plays to step back and appreciate these are the good old days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I love the new merch. I love the designs that our guy Joe put up there. I'm going to bring it up here again. I know you mentioned it earlier, but these are the good old days merch. New merch here at KCSN. Great designs. You can see on the back, it's got Rant Swanson. It's got Discount Cleveland. It's got a lot of little Easter eggs in that KCSN word art right there. Some really, really fun designs here that I think have a great saying, great motto, and kind of fits with what we got going on here at KCSN.
Yep, shop kcsn.com if you want to get it on those. So take advantage of that. BJ, what were your thoughts on the game? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I watched part of it coming back from my son's baseball game. I watched the other part at my daughter's soccer game, and they got the rest. I was getting the stuff for the postgame show, but it was very vintage what we've seen from the Chiefs over the last couple of years. Obviously, you put in new pieces like DeAndre Hopkins and new guys stepped up and made some plays, but at some way it was kind of eerily similar to last week. Where we'd seen some young DB struggle. Saw Najee Johnson last week struggle a little bit, and then the veterans and some other guys have to step up around him. Today was Josh Williams. Had a couple of moments where he struggled right there with the penalty, struggled right there with a few different things, and then they buck up on the goal line. And this team is winning because Patrick Mahomes makes some phenomenal plays that might not be highlight reel plays, but when it's 3rd and 2 and he scrambles outside the pocket and basically no look flips it to the flat to a receiver for a 5-yard gain that gets a first down. It's not going to end up on a highlight reel, but when you go back and watch how do they win football games? They win football games because Patrick Mahomes make plays like that, and because the defense doesn't give up points even when they're in goal to go situations. They don't let up, they don't give in, and that's what we've seen from him time and time again.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of that's what this team has been this year. Just been super efficient. They've kind of just been like constricting the game down, like to kind of not even necessarily shortening it. It's just like making the game feel really short. They're not giving up explosive plays on defense. Their offense isn't really hitting explosive plays. Everything is just short. Who can be in a more efficient offense? And the Chiefs have been that. Like for all of the stuff that we've thrown at this offense this year for not being overly exciting, they've been super efficient. I think these past 2 weeks, though, you've started to see there's a little bit more coming to it. The Chiefs are starting to push the ball a little bit more downfield. They're trying to figure out how to make the offense be a little bit more dynamic than it has been. And you saw it in this game. There was no big plays, but the Chiefs threw multiple passes, between 10 and 20 yards. And that's not something they have done every single game this year. They are trying to move the ball a little bit more. I think you've seen Mahomes get more and more comfortable. And so now he's been great on third downs almost all year, but that narrative kind of gets lost with some of the interceptions, with some of the play on the whole team, not just him on first and second down. Now, as things get cleaned up, you're starting to say, okay, Mahomes is still really good on third down. He's delivering the big play anytime they need it. But guess what? He's also playing pretty good when the pieces around him just aren't actively playing so bad that it's costing them right now. They're still one of the better offenses in the NFL, going with arguably the best defense in the NFL right now. Hard to beat it.
And I know it's boring, but it's boring at times relative. And I say that in a weird way. Not like that I'm bored watching a Kansas City Chiefs football game. It's boring relative to what you've become accustomed to with some of these versions of this team, where it's maybe not always the prettiest thing, and it's maybe not always the most aesthetically pleasing, explosive offense that you've seen in the past. But I'm enjoying every second of this. I like watching this team grind wins out. I like watching this team, just win any way you want to try to win, any terms you want to try to create for this team. They're going to win the football game. And I love that about them. It doesn't matter how you want to play this game. The Kansas City Chiefs have an answer. And not every team in the National Football League has had an answer to this point, which is why Baltimore has 3 losses, the best team in the National Football League as of last Monday, according to people. The Buffalo Bills have 2 losses on the ledger. I mean, the Chiefs are up 2 games on everybody in the AFC already. They haven't relinquished that. They're still up, they're still up 2 games with 10 left. I mean, they win how they need to. And I know it can it can lead to some questions at time, right? There's moments where, people are like, wow, what's gotten into Mahomes or whatever. They're out here winning football games, man.
Yeah.
And if you don't think that what Patrick Mahomes has done in the last, 7 years of his career isn't still in the bag, you're foolish. You're wrong. And he will catch you with it. And I think that's what we saw today is they were moments where they needed some Patrick Mahomes creativity to happen. And he went out and did it. And that it was just the reminder to everyone that it's not always going to be pretty right now with this team. They don't care about style points at all. They just want to win football games, get to January and be the best version of themselves. And they know how to do that now, but when they need it, they'll go pull a few. They'll go pull a few tricks out of their hat, And I love it. I love the fact that they are still winning games. They're not dropping stupid ones. They're just taking care of business with just as little as they have to show anybody right now.
Yeah, we're in this TikTok short form video highlight type era. And I'm not going to steal this from Nick Wright, but he said we're not in our style points era. We're in the winning era, and you can't quantify very easily what Joseph Hafner can do his best to quantify it. But they do what it takes to win football games, and it's not easy to figure out in 20 seconds or explain it on a short video with everybody's attention spans. It's a beautiful thing to witness for those who watch the entire game and understand that the ebbs and flows of a football game are there, and this team doesn't get too high. They don't get too low. When something bad happens, they respond. They don't panic, and that's where you see these one-score games, and they go up against teams that they used to have to feel like, hey, if the defense struggles, we're going to get to a shootout, and we have the offense that can do it. They're never going to have to feel that way because this defense is not going to let them have to get into some sort of shootout. You have to go earn it against this defense. And whenever he has to, Chris Jones reminds everybody he's the best player on the field. And it always seems to happen in the red zone or in some sort of big moment. And honestly, George Karlaftis did it again this week inside the red zone when he has to step up and make a big play. He does it. And Spags dials up the right things at the right time. It's a beautiful symmetry, synergistic, whatever you want to call it, that the team plays well together. And their internal motto this year has been the formula. They have the formula to win big games, to win close games, and to put so much pressure on their opponent that if you give them any sort of inch, they're going to bust right through that door. And every week they do it, it puts a little bit more pressure on the team playing against them to have to feel like they have to play perfect. Even when they don't, they have to feel like they do, because the Chiefs aren't going to give you anything easy.
Yeah, I think that's just it's like a mental reset, not even like a reset, but like you just got to think of it, approach it a little bit differently as a fan, because you got like this gradual change from what they were in 2018, 19, 20, and then going in through all these years, and they're having all this success. But then all of a sudden this year it starts to look even different than last year. It started to look really different, and you pinpoint the reasons why, and they were kind of obvious. And so this year you try to fix that. You hope it's going to be better, and it seems like a little bit more of the same. And so it was frustrating for a while. I do think, though, the Chiefs are figuring stuff out that it doesn't look as discombobulated as it did last year. And I think that's also why they're 7-0 and they're not battling through some losses right now. Right. So I think that's 100% right. And like this team, no matter what, like they're going to be a very, very hard out any given week. And like, hey, right now we're just going to keep on rolling until they, until they lose, which who knows when that's going to happen at this point.
They're in their winning era, baby. I love it. I'm enjoying it. And it's just like, it doesn't feel like, yes, we can acknowledge that there are things that this team needs to work on, but this team has always had things to work on, and they always find a way to make it not matter when the issue, they mitigate their issues so well, and they've done it the last 2 years. And I appreciate that about them. They're not, the issues this year are not so big relative to even last year's, right? Like, I think there's still issues, don't get me wrong, but no team's really been able to make them pay for their issues yet in a way that's kept them from winning a football game. And they do really good job at kind of mitigating those issues as the season goes on.
We used to talk about this before, that this was like years ago, but there's no boogeyman out there. There's no team that we pick apart the Chiefs, and we could talk critically. And I know you guys do it because you look at everything for what it is in that moment. And that's how you cover the team. But like we talked about 3 years ago, that we're always worried that there was some other perfect team out there that had a better defense, or that had a punt returner that could catch the ball. Remember that year that was going to keep us from winning a Super Bowl? Like every year there's been this thought that there's some other team out there that's perfect that can take us down. There is no other team out there. The Chiefs are that team. And the margin of error that we see when we watch the Chiefs is what other teams have to deal with and get past. And if you watch more football, you realize most teams make a lot more mistakes than the Chiefs do when it comes to beating themselves with stuff. And again, a lot of those winning type plays we see from Patrick Mahomes aren't going to be on a top 100 of his career plays, but they're going to be the plays that when you go back and I'll document it on some videos this week, like they just make the winning plays. They're not always going to be highlights.
Is it toast game time, boys?
I believe it is, bud.
I think it is too. BJ, I know you're not here normally. Tucker normally throws to that beautiful little clip of Holiday Distillery. If you want to throw that again, you can even cut me off again if you want. I don't care. But we'll get into toast game here real quick if you want to. We don't even have to play the video. I already played it once, but I already have a couple.
Do you know what does the video look like, Ken?
The one you just played. That's actually normally not the one, but that was slick too. So I was
trying to get you to talk so I could interrupt you, but you made it real quick and I wasn't able to get you. I don't have the bourbon, but I do have the 5 Farms, which is also a phenomenal. Let me get a straw.
Toast game is presented by Ben Holiday. Bourbon, it is absolutely tremendous. I've got some here right now. I made a little Gold Rush, which I made my own honey simple syrup. And I got some lemon juice in here. It's kind of similar to what they make out there at the distillery of Bourbon Smash, just not the mint. If I was bougie, I would get the mint because that's really, really good too. I've got a couple, so I'm going to start with one and then I'll close one with another one.
What?
Yeah. I want to start with McCole Hardman because BJ just brought up like, hey, like I hope they have someone that can field a punt. The Chiefs have a guy that can field a punt. Like I'm really confident in McCole Hardman back in there. He's really settled into that role. I'm confident in McCole Hardman where like I used to be a lot more stressed about punt returns. That's gone away from me. I feel good about McCole Hardman in the return role, and he's done some good stuff in the return game as well. So it's a little subtle appreciation where like I'm not stressed about McCole Hardman returning punts anymore. So there's a quick little one for him. BJ, what you got?
Yeah, you guys surprised me. I was prepared for about everything except for the toast game. So,
don't tell Patrick who is actively watching this show right now.
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh yeah, I think Patrick Mahomes. I was like, God, I
Oh,
hope
Fee.
so. Yeah, no. My toast game, I will do it after the show. My toast game be to George Karlaftis. Made another big play towards the end of the game in a big situation. The goal line stand, might just give it to the whole defense, to be honest with you. The goal line stand and them going for it on fourth down, that was the game. We've seen it before, midway through the second half, early in the fourth quarter. Those are the drives that matter. And when the Chiefs defense needed to step up and prove that they could do what it needed to be done to win a game, they did it. So shout out to George Karlaftis for making the play. Chris Jones, Drew Tranquil. There's a bunch of dudes who made plays inside the red zone. So I'll raise my glass a little bit later to all of them.
Sounds good. BJ, Matthew, what you got?
Is it my turn?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Well, you went subtle, so I feel like I should follow suit. Travis Kelce, gonna give the toast game out to Travis Kelce. That's the opposite of subtle, I know, but this was the first game where it really kind of felt like Kelce was taking over. This was like a vintage Kelce game. We hadn't really had one this year. Not that I am sitting here saying that, he had been washed or anything like that, like some people were starting to run with. It's just, it's a volume management thing for him. You're not going to go to him and ask him to carry the offense every single week. It didn't feel like this was going to be the week they were going to ask him to, and they probably would have won without it, but I thought he played one of his better games. He was consistently finding open spots in zone. You saw it later in the game on that final drive to kind of ice it to get him a little bit closer and pick up that third down. He beats man coverage, also drawing a holding penalty. He looked good this week. It was kind of like that game that finally said, hey, this is the Travis Kelce game that we've been waiting on all year. So I think that deserves a toast game that we made it 7 weeks before needing one of those.
I like that. Can I mic drop on the way out?
Sure.
Okay, so this last one is going to go to Andrew Reid. And according to Adam Dravetta, Andy Reid is now tied with Josh McDaniel as the winningest coach in Allegiant Stadium history. So congratulations to Andy Reid on owning Arrowhead West, Arrowhead Roomba, whatever you want to call it. Andy Reid owns you. Patrick Mahomes owns you. It's not a rivalry unless someone's doing some heavy lifting on the other side. Learned that on Saturday too, BJ. But that's going to do it for this episode of the KCSN postgame show. Thank you all so much for listening, watching, supporting. Don't do a puppet again next time, Raiders. We'll catch you later.
Goodness.